Welcome to another episode of Layman's Guide to the World Cup. My name is Henry, and I'm your host as always. We're in a little different setting. There's a lot going on at Casa de Cover this week, sadly, dealing with a water leak. But that doesn't matter. Episode's still going to happen for you guys at home. So, with that, though, we're going to take a look at both match day 3, how the groups ended, and then go in the bracket. And I'll even share what I think is going to happen in the bracket. But so far, the group stage and the bracket itself, I've gotten a lot wrong. So, which don't take that as my expertise failing. More of that's the beauty of the World Cup, where all this unpredictability happens, and it's crazy. And it's cool, and that's the best part of soccer. And the beauty of the game is anyone can beat anyone on any given day. Just because certain tactics are used and people rising above and heroics happen. So with that, let's get into it. First up, we got Group A. And on the final day, this was like one of those unpredictable things. So Mexico, of course, beat Czechia 3-0. So we thought that was going to happen. It was in that Azteca. It was just like a given, right? But then South Africa beat South Korea 1-0. And because they drew Czechia, they ended up in second place. And this is the first time that South Africa has ever gone out of the group stage. But that leaves South Korea on 3 points, which what we'll find out is 4 points is the sacred number for the best third place teams. But we're going to take a look at that a little later. So for right now, Mexico finished first, South Africa second, South Korea third. Then we go on to Group B, and we had the battle of who's going to be at the top of this group, and that was with Switzerland and Canada fighting it out, with Switzerland ultimately winning 2-1. And then Bosnia and Qatar, whoever won this game was going to be the third place. Bosnia beat Qatar, and it's already been spoiled for you more than likely at this point, because we all know tomorrow the United States is playing Bosnia. So Bosnia finished third place, so then it's Switzerland, Canada, then Bosnia. And that is your finish for Group B. Then we saw Group C, and I gotta tell you, I was watching the Brazil-Scotland game, and I just thought that would be a better game. But then they just started talking about what's going on in the Haiti-Morocco game, and Haiti scored in the 10th, Morocco answered in the 39th, Haiti scored in the 43rd, and then Morocco answered in the 45th, and in 1 minute, and then, of course, in the second half, Morocco scored 2 more goals and ended up 4-2. But don't let that scoreline show anything. Haiti brought it to Morocco, which was really cool to see for this Haitian team. But ultimately, it wasn't enough. So this group ended Brazil 7, Morocco 7, and Scotland on 3 points. Like I said, 3 points isn't a guarantee. The 4 points is the guarantee to make it on to the next round. Then we got Group D. United States, we rotated 9 of our players, so only 2 people from the previous game started for us. And Turkey was playing really rough. There was a lot of calls that should have been called for going both ways, but the referee kind of let a lot slide. We scored in the 3rd, Turkey scored in the 10th and the 31st, and then we scored in the 49th at the beginning of the second half. But then, which has been a trend in this World Cup, Turkey come back in the 90th minute and the 8th minute of stoppage to score and win 3-2. Of course, that win's not doing anything for them, but it's this common thread we keep on seeing with this tournament is teams winning at the last minute. So just keep that in mind as we go into knockouts as well. And of Paraguay and Australia, they tied 0-0. So United States 6, Australia 4, Paraguay 4. Paraguay on 4 points in third place. That means, like I said, that was the magic number, right? Which, of course, they went through to be a third place team. Then Group E, we had Ivory Coast beat Curacao 2-1 comfortably. And then The team that has not scored once in this World Cup, same situation with Turkey, Ecuador ends up beating Germany 2-1. And with that, that makes the group end like this: Germany 6, Ivory Coast 6, Ecuador 4. And remember, I said magic number is 4, so Ecuador moves on. Then we go into Group F. And what a heck of a duel Japan versus Sweden was. It ended in 1-1. Japan scoring in the 56th, Sweden instantly answering in the 62nd, and then it's just a duel till the end. Both of them trying to get a win because of for Sweden, a win would guarantee that second place spot. So it didn't though. But then Netherlands, they rotated a bunch of players and they won 3-1 comfortably against Tunisia, which ended the group. Netherlands 7, Japan 5, Sweden 4. So Sweden had that magic number 4 and moved forward. Next up, we had, going into this, Egypt was leading this group on 4 points with Iran right behind them, and then Belgium in third. But Belgium beat New Zealand 5-1, which leapfrogged them into first place because Egypt and Iran got a 1-1. And with the goal differential, the 5-1, that caused Belgium to have better goal differential. So it ended at Belgium 5, Egypt 5, Iran 3. So will Iran go through? Because they got the 3 points. They got all draws, which doesn't help with the whole goal differential thing either. Then we go on to Group H. And Spain beat Uruguay, and that's what Cape Verde needed. Because with that, Cape Verde 0-0 against Saudi Arabia, and with all 3 games with a tie, they have 3 points. So 7 points Spain. Second place, Cinderella story, Cape Verde with 3. Uruguay ends up with 2 points in third. And let's just say, we can say right now, they did not make it through. Second points, if 4 points is your safety number, then, and if you've already listened at this point, quite a few teams have already got that 4 points. So 2 points is not going to help you at all getting in that third place bracket. Then we have France. We have Group I, France's group. Norway decided to rest their whole starting 11, and they ended up losing 1-4 to France. France basically played their full strength team because the winner of this game was going to win the group. So Norway decided the calculation was better to just rest their players for the next round, especially since they don't have a deep squad. It's a good thing. But Senegal beat Iraq 5-0, finally getting their first points, and they got 3 points. So France 9, Norway 6, Senegal in 3 points. So will that get them through? We'll have to find out in a minute, right? Then we go on to Group J. Argentina comfortably beat Jordan 3-1, resting a lot of their starters. And then the most exciting game was Algeria and Austria. Austria needed a draw to keep their second place. Algeria needed a win to make it in second place in automatic qualification. So it went, Austria scored in the 28th. Then before the half was over, Algeria scored in the 45th. And then Austria scored in the 55th. And then Algeria scored in the 60th. And then Algeria scored in the 90th minute and the 3 minutes of stoppage time. So they were finally leading and winning. And then Austria comes in 3 minutes later, gets their goal, and the game ends 3-3. So it was quite the nail biter. But Argentina 9, Austria 4, Algeria gets the 4 as well, which then allows them to move forward to the knockouts. Then, next up, we got Group K, Colombia versus Portugal. Ended in a draw, which this is the continuing of a disappointing World Cup for Portugal. I thought Portugal was going to do really well, but I'm second guessing all of that. I mean, there's been the tactics and the selfishness of certain players, I think, have really made me question the strength of this Portuguese side. Can you just sub off Ronaldo? Does he really have to play the whole time? And then the Congo beats Uzbekistan 3-1, and that allows them to be in fourth place, or third place, with 4 points. Remember, I told you the magic number is 4. Congo, for the first time ever, is moving on to the next, for the first time ever, to the knockouts of the World Cup, which is exciting for them. Then we go on to Group L, and that England beats Panama cleanly, but the more interesting game is that Croatia-Ghana game, because with that, this is going to be who's going to be in second. And Croatia take it all the way to the end to get their 2-1 win in the 83rd, and then park the bus and solidify that win, which gets them their second place spot. So it ends England on 7, Croatia on 6, Ghana on 4. And that's all the groups. That was all that was happening. And but the third place teams, there's 7 teams on 4 points. So that's Congo, Sweden, Ghana, Ecuador, Bosnia, Algeria, and Paraguay all move forward on 4 points in their third place. So that leaves us with Scotland, South Korea, Iran, and Senegal on 3 points. And the determining factor was goal differential. And Senegal is very happy that they got that big win against Iraq, because they moved through on a +2 goal differential, and they're the 8th best third place team moving forward, which is awesome for them. Well, now we have the brackets now, and it's a pretty exciting. There's a lot of good games, and there's already been a handful of upsets. We've had, at this point, as of today, we've had 5 different results, or 5 different games so far. So you're going to get some answers on these bracket already. So it's not a perfect bracketology. It's how the week went with me being able to film. But so we're going to start on the left. So you see a bracket. We're going to start on this side, and we'll do it by quadrants. So if you guys see quadrants, if you've never done bracket tournaments, there's 4 quadrants, which those are the quadrants that lead to a semifinal. So we'll start on this side, work our way down, then here, and then we'll do the semis, and then to the final. So first up, we had Germany and Paraguay, and that game went to penalties. And Paraguay beat Germany on penalties 4-3. It was quite a nail biter. There were saves by both goalkeepers. There was also shanks by many different players. But that caused Paraguay to move forward. Now the game that's about to start is France versus Sweden. And I think this is going to be a clear one. France has been the most dominant team in this World Cup, and I think France is going to pull it through. Then we already know that South Africa lost to Canada 1-0 with Canada, so Canada's moving forward. If you're in Houston, this is the July 4th game in Houston. Canada will be playing in that. Then another game going to penalties. We had Netherlands, Morocco, and oh man, 1-1, and same thing. There was misses and there was catches, and there was even one that the goalkeeper got a hand on and it got knocked into the goal. So ultimately Morocco won 3-2 on penalties. So they're moving on to that July 4th in Houston. Then we got so that's kind of the end of this quadrant. So Paraguay versus France. I think even though if Paraguay plays very defensive like they played against Germany, I think France has a lot more deadly weapons than Germany does, with Dembele and Mbappe, and they will shred Paraguay just like the United States did. So I see France moving forward. Then we have Canada and Morocco. I don't think Canada has a chance against Morocco. Morocco's been playing very well, so I see those two um, moving forward. And that gets us a France Morocco quarterfinal, which should be a really good game. But ultimately, I think it's going to be France that pulls through here and wins it. Then going on to the next quadrant, we have Portugal and Croatia. Croatia are penalty merchants, and I think they will take Croatia to penalties. Portugal to penalties, just because against the good teams, Portugal's output has not been the best. And I think Croatia will exploit that, take that to penalties. There might be a 1-1 goal here. But I think Croatia will ultimately move on. In the last two World Cups, they've been taking teams to penalties and then beating them. Our goalkeeper is really good at taking penalties. So I think that's what happens here. Then we have Spain and Austria. I think Spain is the more complete team. And I think they'll pull it a win against Austria. Then we have United States and Bosnia. If the United States plays like they played against Paraguay and Australia, I don't think they'll have much of an issue beating Bosnia. We just got to put the Turkey game behind us. Matt Freese didn't play in that game, our goalkeeper, so his confidence shouldn't be shaken. And I think Pulisic did play in that game, and he played very well. So with him being back and Balogun being on form, and a lot of our players playing very well, it's hard for us to be stopped here. I think Bosnia will play a lot like Australia played and play a little rough with us. But if we can rise above that, I think the game is ours. I don't think it's going to be like the Paraguay game where it's like we had 4 goals. I think it's more of like probably a 2-0 game. But if we take our chances early, I think that'll be good for us for the long run of that game. Then we have a really good game with Belgium and Senegal. And I think I've just been watching Senegal, and I think they are the better, more complete team compared to Belgium. And I think they will overwhelm that Belgian defense, and they will move forward. So then we have Croatia and Spain. I think Spain is going to beat Croatia, and because Spain's the more complete team, I think, at this World Cup, and that will push them forward over the edge with Croatia. Then we have United States and Senegal, and we played Senegal in the friendlies right before this World Cup, and we beat them 3-2. But this time, we won't be doing friendly subs or anything like that. We'll be playing at full strength. And if we stick to a similar game plan, I think we can beat Senegal, and I think that's what's going to happen here. We also have the home field advantage, which is always a good thing for us as well. So that brings us to the quarterfinals, Spain versus the United States. Where's my heart here? I honestly think unless we play very well, I think Spain will beat us in this game, and they will move on to the semis. We have the opportunity, if we play really well and can lock down like Laymen Yamal and overwhelm their midfield, I think that's the only way we can really win, is if we're able to dictate the pace of the game. But if we can't, I think Spain will punish us because of that, and they'll take control. Then we go on to the next quadrant, which we already happened. Brazil, in an exciting game here in Houston. Brazil beat Japan 2-1. A very good game. It's just sad, Japan played their hearts out, and they ultimately lost here. And then earlier today, Ivory Coast and Norway played, and this just shows, Norway was onslaughting, and ultimately Holland pushed through, and they beat the Ivory Coast. Then we have Mexico and Ecuador. This will be in the Azteca, which I think will definitely be Mexico's 12th man, and ultimately that's going to be the main reason why they win against Ecuador. I think Ecuador is going to run off the momentum of the Germany game, but I think Mexico will run off the momentum of the fans. and that will push them forward. Then we have England and Congo. I think it's going to be an interesting game because I think Congo will bring the fight to England. But ultimately, I could see England winning this before penalties happen, or it goes to penalties. But I think with England's experience, whether it's an extra time or it's the final, they will take care of business and move forward. So that leaves us Brazil, Norway. Brazil, I don't think is as good as their score lines have been. I don't think they have as great of an identity as Brazilian teams of the past. And I think ultimately Norway, this is like Norway's game to lose. So if they cannot perform with the attacking with Holland, I think that's what will knock them out. But ultimately, I think Norway has the momentum and kind of just this excitement around them. And I think that will push them farther than you think. So I think Norway here. Then Mexico again is playing in the Azteca, but this time against England. And I think this is where the Azteca will fail them. It's not going to help push them on. This is where their talent's going to be seen. This is the weakest Mexican national team generation in a long time. And I think they will be crushed under the talent of Harry Kane in England. So they will move forward. So we get a Norway-England quarter, and I think this is where Norway's kind of gets caught because they're going to be playing against players that play against Holland week in and week out in the Premier League. So they know how to defend against them. Same with Odegaard and how he plays as a playmaker. So ultimately, I think England's going to beat Norway, and that brings them on to the semis. Then we have Argentina. Next quadrant, we have Argentina and Cape Verde. Off of vibes, you want the Cinderella to continue, but I think ultimately the skill of Messi will prevail, and Cape Verde will be knocked out. Then we have Argentina and Egypt. I think Australia is a very defensive, hard team to play against, but I think Egypt has enough attacking options that's what's going to cause them to win here. Then we have Switzerland and Algeria. I was high on Switzerland before this tournament, but watching Algeria play against Austria, I think they got the tools to beat ultimately Switzerland here. And I think Algeria will push through. Then we have Colombia and Ghana. I've been a big fan of Ghana this tournament. And I think what will punish Colombia is they're waiting till too late in the game to get goals in the back of the net. And that will ultimately cause their own failure and downfall because I think Ghana will take advantage of that. And like these types of games in the knockout, it's very much all about momentum. So I see Ghana going through here. So we have Argentina and Egypt. I think the Messi factor is ultimately going to get them through here, and they will beat Egypt, and they will move forward onto the quarters. And then Ghana and Algeria kind of fighting these two powerhouses of Africa. Again, I love Ghana here. I think they're a more complete team than Algeria and a more tactically sound team, and I think they'll pull it over Algeria. So then we have Argentina and Ghana in the quarters, and I think this is where I think this will be a game that there's going to be quite a few goals. I think this is where it's going to catch up to them because of the speed and agility of a lot of these Ghana players that Messi's lack of defending is going to catch up with Argentina. But ultimately, I think Argentina's magic is going to push them over the edge, and I see them winning here. So these are our semis. We have France, Spain, and England, Argentina. France, Spain. I think I've been talking about Spain's a complete team, but I don't think they're a deadly team, and I think that's where France is going to really punish them because France is a complete team as well, but they have so many deadly options, specifically at Dembele and Mbappe, and I think they will overwhelm Spain's midfield. Rabiot is having a great tournament in that midfield, along with Tuchemeli, and I think it's going to be a battle of the midfield. ultimately for this game. Who can supply the attackers? But the thing is, with France, is their attackers can come into the midfield and make magic happen. Spanish attackers outside of Lamine Yamal can't really do that, and I think that will punish Spain. So France, I think, will move on to the final. Then you have England and Argentina. I think England is a more complete team here. Which that's the hard part of Argentina. They're missing a lot of pieces, or their pieces have gotten older from when they won the World Cup. And they're so reliant on Messi. I think this is going to bite them in the butt here against England. And England will take advantage of that. They can park the bus, and their defenders are good enough to nullify Messi. And so it's really going to battle of who creates the magic, Kane or Messi. And ultimately, I think this is England's time, and I think they will beat Argentina. So that leads us to a France-England final, a rivalry as old as time itself. Well, maybe not, but still, I think this is going to be a really interesting final. Can they lock down Mbappe and Dembele? That's going to be the difference maker here. Can Kane control the pacing? Can Rice control that midfield for England? It's really, is Jude Bellingham going to continue his amazing form and help produce, going to make the ball come to Kane? That's the magic that we'll be looking at here. And it's going to be up, if all of the best parts work, either team can win. But ultimately, I have been so impressed with this French team and how strong and how much depth is there that I think ultimately France is going to take this. And this will be their second win in 3 World Cups. And it'll just show. And I think Mbappe's got at least one more good World Cup to go. I was listening to a podcast and he was talking about, Messi, Ronaldo's the debate for who's the best player to ever be around. But the debate should also include, is Mbappe the greatest World Cup performer of all time? Because honestly, he's still young. And man, oh man, he is performing at this World Cup, and I could see him getting the golden ball. He is 27. He'll be 31 at the next World Cup. He's almost tied with Messi, who currently has the most cumulative goals for the World Cup. So I could see him breaking all types of records. He's a big game player, and he will show up for this French team. So, love to hear about your own brackets. Like I've said before, with the group and the brackets, I've gotten so much of this wrong at this point, but that's the beauty of the World Cup. Magic happens, and it's going to be awesome. So just watch some good games. There's going to be a lot of good ones, a lot of surprises, a lot of penalty shootouts, and that'll be a joy. So I'll see you next time. I've been Henry.